Israel mounts heavy attack on southern Lebanon. This is after, of course, this whole week has been absolutely nuts. We've been talking about, of course, the massive storm that moved through the U.S. Of course, we have the massive, monstrous Category 5 off of the coast of Florida now hitting. And, of course, aid flying all over the world straight out of the U.S.'s pockets. Well, more so our pockets. But now, of course, you have Israel over there in Lebanon, now on the ground, boots on the ground, carrying out further strikes in Lebanon and said it was sending more troops to fight Hezbollah. It also struck in Gaza to destroy a rocket launcher that Hamas used to target Tel Aviv. Now, if you followed me on Twitter over on X, you would know that strike actually happened the same kind of 24 hours that Iran actually shut down their airspace. It's been quite wild the last 2 days since Sunday morning. So with all of the stuff going on here, it said that Israel's military kept up its strikes on two fronts on Monday with an intense barrage on southern Lebanon with a retaliatory attack targeting Hamas in the southern strip, a sign of how significantly the fighting has spread in the years since Hamas cross-border assault. As Israelis commemorated the, of course, Hamas-led October 7 event that sparked Israel's conflict in the Strip, Hamas targeted what it called the depths of the occupation in Tel Aviv with a rare rocket attack that left little damage. Now, I want to remind you, they pointed out that it left little damage. I'm going to pop over to my X account here, and I'm just going to briefly kind of flash this, and this is over on our website as well. But the attack there, 5 rockets, they say, ended up hitting. And a lot of the folks over on X were questioning, where is the Iron Dome? Where is the arrow system? How does this even happen? So let me pull this up real quick. Let me go home, and let's see here. Boom. Okay. So let's go to me. There we go. All right. So this was about the same time. So this was right after. This happened right around the same time that they were releasing the information about how today, we're actually still in this day, DHS and FBI were warning about attacks to the United States. They were on high alert for specifically around this anniversary here in the United States. Luckily, nothing crazy or too crazy happened. Hopefully, the time frame is not wrong. But of course, they are saying, this said, now details are being released about Hamas bombing Tel Aviv on October 7th. One of the first questions here was, where is the Iron Dome? So when you see some of the damage and the strikes, it's like, I thought they were able to take down almost everything. And one person commented, oh, well, it's because they did it in the daytime and it's harder. I'm like, no, it's harder to do it in the nighttime. That's why they always do strikes at night. So they did a strike in midday and were able to get right into Tel Aviv and strike this place. And of course, they're saying, oh, well, there was little damage, and not too much was hurt by this. But you're saying that 200 missiles hit and none of them hit, or they were basically saying like, oh, almost none hit and only a couple hit and this and that, when they can send 5 over, not a massive barrage of distractions and drones and everything else, and they can hit right in the heart of Tel Aviv? I don't know. This whole thing is just insane. And this was right after Iran, of course, if you watched my Marfoogle News video on Sunday night, was closing their airspace. And that's the same exact thing they did before they did the huge strike. And it was the same thing they did before they did the first strike. They closed down the airspace, canceling all flights across all airports in Iran. So we really were kind of on our toes going, hopefully nothing is happening. Luckily, there wasn't a massive event like last week, but there was this. And it's like, it just doesn't make sense. None of it does. So we're going to talk about this and much, much more on tonight's episode of Marfoogle TV. So stick around. We'll be right back. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, back to the news. Let's first bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So let's talk about the new Gorilla botnet. Launches over 300,000 DDoS attacks across 100 countries. That sounds pretty massive.
It does sound pretty massive, and it certainly is. So cybersecurity researchers have discovered a new botnet malware family called Gorilla, or aka the Gorilla bot, that is a variant of, I guess, a former Mariah leaked code that had come out. But they've identified the activity last month, saying that the botnet has issued 300,000 attack commands with a shocking attack density between the beginning and the end of last month alone. No less than 20,000 commands designed to mount distributed denial of the service attacks have been issued from it every single day. For those of you who don't know what a botnet is, this is where people put software on your computers. And when I say people, it's usually, it's hackers, but they do it by way of getting you to install something else. Like you install a piece of software because you think you found something cool you want to use off the internet, you put it on your computer, but then it's full of malware. Well, that malware on the side is actually running a botnet. Or they may have other ways that they've infiltrated computers and they leave behind software running on them. So now they have this network of bots, if you want to call them that are all out there on everyone's computers all over, that are at the mercy now of the hacker to perform actions. So this massive botnet that's out there, potentially issuing over 300,000 DDoS attacks across 100 different countries is significant because of the size and the fact that it's a new one. It's something new they're having to deal with. So we may see this in the effect that you may see certain websites just have problems, and it could be that that's the case. Hopefully a lot of this we've seen big companies like Cloudflare brag on their ability to stop this type of attack, and they've been successful in the past, but still there's a lot of people that can be affected by these things when they happen. And by the way, DDoS, the last thing I'll tell you, try not to be too technical, it's a denial of service, and basically what those bots do is they flood. They send a whole bunch of requests. It's sort of like, let's send 1 million people into your front door, and now you can no longer use your front door because it's so crowded. There's nobody there. You can't walk in and out your front door is one way to think of it. So they just flood a website, or flood a network, or flood a platform.
An example of when this happened recently was X, when they did the interview with Elon and T-Man. Wasn't that a DDoS where they said that they
that's what they claimed. Yes, absolutely.
Elon quickly posted, because the interview ended up being 45 minutes late. The world was watching, and I say that because the actual numbers who tuned in, the amount of people that watched that, it was absolutely insanity. 45 minutes late. Elon ended up posting this was a massive coordinated DDoS attack. Now, most people have their thoughts about who that was, and they don't think it's exactly Russia, right? So when that happened, that was a massive DDoS. Now, Dex, let me ask you this. This sounds like this is such a massive thing. What is the benefit of this for these hacking groups? Or what is the benefit for the bot family? Or is this something preparing for something even bigger to take down the whole thing, the whole internet?
Well, I think it's a great question when you think about what from a DDoS point of view, that's more of just nuisance. I think when you think about somebody taking down a specific service, let's say they do a DDoS attack against a municipality, and now their websites don't work because they're just getting hammered. They will fix that. That's not easy to fix, but it's fixable. They will just have to, move stuff around and change out how they're working and put somebody like Cloudflare in the middle that can sort of, start mitigating off all that traffic. It's not the same as, say, somebody like ransomware, where they actually infiltrate the system and lock all the data down and say, okay, we've put everything that you own under lock and key, and if you want it, you got to pay us. But I think what we need to also think about is the fact that these large botnets are out there, and DDoS is just one example of the power they can wield. They can actually wield lots of other things, whether it be performing massive mass scale attacks for other types of activities, and those botnets can do that.
Could they also use this to distract while they do something else, like what you said prior, like a different kind of hack? Could they use this to where they're using resources to try to handle this while they do something else? And wasn't Cloudflare the one that just had a huge scandalous thing, or was that am I thinking of another company?
Oh no, that's a different company.
Which one?
I think it was CrowdStrike.
CrowdStrike, that's right. And you said Cloudflare. I thought Cloudflare. Oh no, Cloudflare is
Cloudflare is the guys. Cloudflare is the caching type service that a lot of the providers out there use, because they sit on the edge of the network and they cache everything so that things run faster, and they have the ability to sort of prevent these denial of service attacks.
And by caching, he means storing the data temporarily, right? Would that be a good way to put it?
So like a good way to think is when you go watch a video, they may store that video on the edge of the network. So when your neighbor goes to watch the same video, they don't have to just distribute it across all of the internet. It's right there at the edge, and they can start watching it again because it's already been cached there momentarily for a little while.
Or the king of caching, I haven't had Facebook in years, but it was I always was like shocked. Even if I didn't have internet, almost all of the posts were still there. Like you could still scroll through the entire thing. Many websites or many apps are like this. Twitter's like this, I think, because you can open it up and whatever you were scrolling through, even apps like TikTok do it, where you can see 20 or 30 or 40 videos that you scrolled through before, and it basically saved it to your device or saves it in a temporary file so you can then watch it. So you can then, if you went in and out of reception, it keeps you going and it loads up faster, and you have all of that at your fingertips. But this is just, something seems wrong to me. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then AT&T Verizon reportedly hacked to target U.S. government wiretapping platform. Now, this is the biggest hacking story of the day, in my opinion, because what they are talking about is that China is supposedly trying to access the same programs that our U.S. government uses to be able to listen in on us. That is very disturbing and very, very creepy. They said that multiple U.S. broadband providers, including Verizon, AT&T, and Lumen Technologies, have been breached by a Chinese hacking group tracked as Salt Typhoon, the Wall Street Journal reports. Now, side note, I have pointed out that not on top of T-Mobile, but about a week and a half before Verizon, the same company involved here, and by the way, AT&T, the same day, we had 3 different phones from 3 different plans on T-Mobile, or 2 on T-Mobile, 1 on a prepaid phone, my daughter's phone that's on, basically uses T-Mobile's towers, but a different service, and then an AT&T data, what do you call it? Whatever, the wireless data plans for, tablets and stuff. I don't know why I can't think of that dang word. But we had all 4 of those go down at the exact same time that our Comcast went out. Comcast stopped, it paused, it stopped loading. which the Comcast is through a fiber optic cable or through a cable through fiber optics. And then at the same time, all of our cell phones went to SOS. They were bricked. It actually said, you are not registered on a network at all. And I was thinking, this is really weird. I've lost cable a million times. I'm sure you have too. I've lost cell phone service sometimes. I've never lost both at the same time, because my assumption at that time was, hey, cell phones are, a lot of people think they're going up to space and back, but they're going to a tower, and then that tower goes through fiber optics to another tower. And so my thought, and then after talking to people like Dex and others, I'm like, okay, so something happened to the actual fiber optics, and that's why both went out. I told you guys about this not a week and a half later. Verizon had a massive event where they had this huge outage and it bricked their phone. Same thing, where it was SOS, not registered on the network. That happened. And I think it's extremely suspect. The FCC actually said, oh, well, we're going to investigate. We don't get a solid answer of what happened. They always tell us it's an update or this or that. But when that happened, it was almost the exact thing about a week later. Those being that close together, the same exact kind of thing happening, that tells me something is going on. Like there's some sort of practice run going on all of these things, or they're testing something. They're testing some sort of attack, a massive attack, because even these attacks, if they were to knock down all of our internet or knock down multiple services, all communications, I bet you their worst nightmare is they go to attack and it affects like 1 out of 50 things. And here's the thing. For you to test like that, that means that you would want it to go perfect when you actually did the real deal, the big thing. Because say if you knock down 1/20th of the communications, then they still have communications. Well, why would you want to knock down all communications? And we're talking about all, cell phone, internet, cable, everything. If you weren't trying to plan something massive, like big. That's why I look at this and go, this is really kind of eerie. Dex, but they ended up, of course, saying that they have been breached. And what is the risk of this hacking into this to access this program?
Well, obviously the system they were breaching is the one that is this program. So I guess that's how I'm interpreting it. That's how they know, like, that's what they were going after, because they were the breach happened in the intelligence collecting system, or the wiretapping system, that portion of our phone networks. What does it mean? I mean, on one hand, I'd like to think that they found everything and cleaned it up and they can't do it. But that certainly begs the question, like, what could be left behind that we don't know? And, we have been told over and over again that China has been going after our infrastructure, not to take it down immediately, but to get it prepared to take down on their command. In other words, they want to be able to wreak havoc when they want to wreak havoc, whether that's during a straight up conflict, or if there's just a certain event or a certain type of activity they want to take place with us. Now, this wouldn't necessarily wreak havoc unless what they're trying to do is prevent having their phones listened to. Maybe there's an opportunity where they're going to use the telecommunications to communicate with people on the ground in the US, and they want this system to go down. Or maybe they want to use this system to listen. But imagine if they were trying to command a whole lot of people, boots on the ground, so to speak, in the US over the telecommunications network, but they didn't want those lines to be tapped, and they wanted to bring that down and prevent that from happening. That's one scenario.
Yeah, and currently right now, if the US did suspect that there were different agents that were agents of, say, China, one thing else I wonder if they could do is take them off of that list of wiretapped phones. Like you said, block that. But what if they could actually remove from the back end, like say, hey, this person's not a person of interest? Or could they add names to this? Does this same program, is this something that they could hack into and say, add names of people that they want that aren't on the wiretap list, that the U.S. government isn't listening to? Add that name, say they want to add President JB or something, and it automatically goes, oh, this is their number and we're going to wiretap this phone. Do you think from a computer standpoint of view, is that something that this program could possibly do? Or would that be done on a separate thing to feed into this thing?
Well, I mean, maybe it could give them access to actually record or pick up and wiretap any phone they wanted. I mean, that could be the other part of it is if they got into the system, they certainly could have been listening to any phone, and they could. Who knows how long they were there? Who knows what they may have already recorded or taken out? That has not been revealed, and probably would not be revealed.
And they said that the threat actor used a custom backdoor called Sparrow Door, customized versions of the Mimikatz tool for extracting authentication data, and a Windows kernel mode rootkit demo decks. So just, yeah, it's not reassuring that they're accessing all of these systems, and we've covered. I mean, it's like one after the other. They're saying that China has accessed these. Why is this not a just absolute, giant deal to people? I don't get it. But of course we all have, there's so much stuff going on, and like, you can't call this hurricane stuff in Florida, that's not a distraction. This is a disaster. Look at this is something we need to pay attention to. Same with North Carolina. Like, somebody's dome piece has got to roll for the response to the North Carolina stuff. But at the same point, there might be multiple important events that we all have to pay attention to at the same time. Basically, you might have to really broaden what you're watching at all times if you want to be the matriarch or the patriarch of your family and really know what's going on. Or you could just watch our show. Dex, go ahead.
Seeing all that traffic that we showed in the other video over on Marfoogle News about the mass exodus right now from Florida, it just reminded me of that movie we watched and reviewed that the O's made, where they took the Teslas, Leave the World Behind. Thank you. I couldn't remember the name of it. Where they took the Teslas, right, and they used the Teslas to jam up the highways, and that's almost like a real world physical version of a distributed denial of service, because they basically take all these things and then shove them into a highway, crash them into one another, and now nobody can get through.
That's actually terrifying. And the fact that Leave the World Behind was made by the former president and his wife, their production company, and it's so funny, even on the last video, people commented. They said, oh, well, they're just producers. And then they gave me a lesson on what producers do. And they're like, producers usually pay for stuff, that blah, blah, blah. They don't really have much in how it is. Barack went on record saying, and there are other directors and other people went on record stating that not only was he a part of it, that he was actively a part of that movie, and he was a consultant. He gave them information based on his experience as a president and how, here's a scenario that would go down and how this could possibly go down if it did, based on the knowledge that he had. So Leave the World Behind, as a lot of people I said watch that movie, a lot of people were super they didn't like it, or they thought it was campy or weird. And I'm telling you, that's why it's campy and weird. There's weird stuff in that movie. There's tons of stuff. How right away when it came out, all these people started doing breakdowns of it, because there's all these little things in the movie, signs from the first 30 seconds, seeing 6, 6, and 6 on it, to just all the little weird symbols and symbolism in it. It's just weird. But the prediction of the satellite phone, the sat phone, not working, and everything else, and all of the stuff that's going on right now as we speak, the headlines we've covered in the last couple weeks, it's just weird that it keeps looking like, that might not have been a movie. It might be a script for the future. All right. And thank you guys. My nose is just totally packed, and I cannot breathe at all. So thank you for your patience if I sound nasally. If you can, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. If you haven't already, this is a device that can protect your cars and trucks. If you don't want to be stuck, hopefully Teslas don't end up blocking the roads. But if they do, I would suggest driving up on the sidewalk. This device, though, can make sure that your vehicle does run. So if you do have a chance, you have that chance, and it's not thrown away. This not only protects cars, but trucks, motorcycles, boats, RVs, of course, motorhomes, generators, and even solar generators in the case of the energy, and your home. So there's devices for almost everything that you want to protect. It's very easy to do. It does not take a mechanic. You can put it in less than 10 minutes, and it's going to ground the signal of either an EMP, electromagnetic pulse attack, from an adversary like Iran, Russia, China, but it will also protect you against the sun, against a Carrington-level event that would happen naturally. So go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. It will ground that signal. Again, less than 500 trillionths of a second. So before you can even do a 8,000th of a blink, it will solve the problem for you and ground that. marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF. You're helping independent news. You're getting a $50 off discount per device. And, of course, you're getting something that could be the difference between you getting home to your family, getting out, or not. All right, and let's go over Russia issues a nuclear threat to the U.S. Dex, over the weekend, explain what happened.
Yeah, certainly. So Russia, quote, will not hesitate to resume its nuclear weapons testing if similar steps are taken by the United States, according to the country's deputy foreign minister, Sergei Ryabkov. So this is coming out of the media over there. It was comments made on a television during an interview with a state-backed TV network, the RT network there. But it's specifically talking about testing. And I think when we have to think that this is following up what we discussed just at the end of last week about the U.S. getting that first a pit of our new nuclear device ready, which is sort of one of the detonating features of the new nuke we're building. Now, that new nuke has been way behind schedule and it's way over budget. But it's obviously progressing now very fastly, and they just got what's called the nuclear pit done last week. So presumably we'll probably want to test that. I don't know if we will actually conduct tests. Gosh, it's been a long time since we've ever tested one, but you never know. Maybe we'll do something and we won't talk about it, or we'll do something. Who knows what we'll do? But at the same time, Russia is now speaking out saying, we may do the same thing. We're not going to, hesitate to resume our testing as well. So is this a precursor to the infamous, tactical that everybody's waiting to, hear? I know a lot of people are saying it's going to happen any day and they're going to use it. Some have suggested they'll just test one just to let the world know that they exist again. I guess that's what we look at when we think about this rhetoric coming out of Russia.
No, I disagree. I always wondered about this earthquake that happened under China Lake. The epicenter, right, was right under China Lake base, which is, I believe, a experimental weapons testing lab and station. So again, that was twin earthquakes. Rocked the small towns of Ridgecrest. And if you remember this, there were videos of pools like 400 miles away or 300 miles away. Crazy distance, like a state's away. There were pools going like this, sploshing around. Do you remember that? This was back in 2019. I was covering this. So if you're a old school Foogle fan, you totally remember us covering this. And it's like, then, was that an underground nuclear test? Can they do that kind of stuff at China Lake? Do you believe that we have not tested any nuclear weapons? At least, they say publicly there has been very little, but what are they doing privately, right? That one was very weird. I remember, and you know what's so funny? I remember where I learned about this, and it was James Munder. Rest in peace. He passed away a few years ago. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and wouldn't that also, I think those were like a 6.4, 7 something range, or 6 and a 7. Wouldn't that be massive? And I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying it very well could be true. We just don't know. Like, it's not like we've confirmed it, but a lot of times the nuke testing wasn't anywhere near that high of a magnitude. So that would suggest, if we really were doing it, that what we did was obviously super, super powerful to generate a 6.4 and a 7.1.
Well, what else would we be testing at this point in the after 2000? Look at what we were testing back then. Look at what Russia, the Sarmat, which can take out like 4 states. Obviously, that's not, I mean, it's kind of deceiving because it actually has multiple warheads that then spread out and hit multiple areas. So it's kind of like just multiple nukes in one. But the power of what we've done, the weapons, they don't go backwards. It's like, hey, let's invent a less powerful bomb. I think that's like something that they've pretty much never said. I don't know. I'm not sure, though. Let's go over and let's do a quick roll call. Bobby Sue, what is going on? Harley Berg, WIS Jen. We've got Really Suck. We've got J-Pass. Let's see here. Think. We've got Schaefer Girl. What is happening? Shastina. What is happening? Nice to see you. I remember James Munder. May he rest in peace. Yeah, it was horrible watching James go through everything he was going through. It was not fun. But he is somewhere better now. Space Monkey, what is happening? Stealth Stalker, Suze Q, J-Pass, Stephen McMahon. Hey, nice to see you. Or do you have to like head out to work at some point? Or can you join us for the whole show? I know you usually are heading to work at some point here. And then I do want to say thank you, Julie Bratcher. It says, it's all biblical. Read Revelation to see how it ends. Get ready to meet Jesus. And then another comment. Great. By the way, Julie, thank you for not only supporting us, but thank you for making it to a ton of the shows. I can't say thank you enough to all of you guys that are watching the replays every single day. Thank you guys for sharing out our news videos and our shorts. Thank you for telling people about us. That's like the biggest thing here. The fact that you guys share us out, we can actually see. Every creator can see how many times that somebody has shared their stuff. You guys are awesome. We really appreciate it. If it wasn't for you guys sharing our stuff out with new people or sending it, when you send it to a friend, they keep all that. They see that and they share it with us. And it is really cool to see you guys sharing our stuff. So thank you. Cody, thank you. Says, I live in Hazelhurst, Georgia. 7th day, no power. Oh, I'm way behind here. Let's see here. By the way, we would love an update. Did you get power back, by the way? That was 2 days ago. Cody, by the way, that was October 3rd. So that's 4 days ago. I would love to hear from you, Cody. Did you get your power back? Colby Wilson, I pray for everyone in here tonight that we are protected and our family is protected. Let's see here. That our family is protected. Mad respect for Marf, Dex, and the mods. Much love. Thank you, Colby. And, of course, thank you, Kat. Anyone see Black Chem trainings yet? I saw one this weekend. If anyone knows what's that all about, please tell. I'm trying to think. If you mean like black is in like secret, like black projects, like yeah, I don't know. Please, you guys send me information on that. Adam@marfooglenews.com. If there's something I'm missing, let me know. And then Julie Bratcher, thank you, and thank you again. New subscribers, Mauricio Mesa. Hey, thank you. Thank you for giving us a chance. Thank you for even popping in. But more so, thank you for subscribing. That is super appreciated. You are welcome here. Make sure to pop into the chat, meet some people. And then Laura Starheim. And I would be able to pronounce it if it wasn't for my nose. Thank you for subscribing. Dex, let's go over and talk about Slovak. Prime Minister states he will never agree to Ukraine's NATO membership.
Wow. So as a NATO member, the Prime Minister, Robert Fico, has stated that he's not going to allow it should that come to vote. And it's not really a him, but it's his MPs that would be assigned to that. And if he is the Prime Minister and if he is in charge, he said, as long as I am Prime Minister of the Slovak Republic, I will ensure that the MPs under my political control as the chairman of the ruling party never agree to Ukraine's NATO membership. He later then said that it basically means it would trigger the Third World War, and he wouldn't allow it. He had no problem with them joining the EU. He said that was fine, but he's making it clear up front. And I guess this goes hand in hand with a lot of discussion that's been happening with whether or not NATO should start to bring Ukraine in and start that process of bringing them in. Some nations have been saying it because they just want to go ahead and sort of rip the Band-Aid off. But as other nations like Slovakia are saying, hey, that's not going to happen because it's going to create, a massive world conflict. So we'll see.
Can I point out, you guys, this is, if it's being talked about, why, right? Is it just like he's just stating his general opinion? Or on the back end, is there things being talked about? Well, we already know that they've publicly said, in many countries, they've said, well, we should probably do this. And they've even said, like, NATO will eventually be a part of NATO at some point, or Ukraine will be a part of it. If they were a part of it right now, NATO is very clear. You mess with one, you mess with all. If they're in a current war and they join, that means we're in a current war and we join. So let's take a quick vote, and I think this will be interesting to see. And please give your true opinion. Don't look at others and take theirs. 1, if you think that Ukraine should join NATO, just our general opinion. 2, if you think they should not. Or 3, if you think they should wait until much, much later after the war ends. But they could. What do you guys think? 1 for yes, yes, you think they should join. 2 for no, they should not join NATO. And 3, it's okay if they join NATO, but after the Russian war. Man, Dex, are you looking at the chat?
Yeah, it's a lot of 2s.
And we do have people from around the world, but most of them are Western countries. So Daniel Sen had... You stinker, you put in 4, none of the above. Okay. Well, I mean, 1 is yes, 2 is no. What is none of the above, though? Like, they shouldn't join, they should just perish. Yeah. I get you. Pass me, lady. Sean C. Philosopher. Belgium needs to get out of NATO, but their headquarters are here. Where are you at? See here, think. Stephen McMahon, how about a real movie? It went by too fast, dang it. Viv B, Anna Kalima, we should be out of NATO. Alicia DMD. Well, I think even our former president, he doesn't disagree with NATO. He disagrees with the money that's being spent on our end compared to everybody else's. And I'll reference that Eric Weinstein interview once more. He did make such a great point that, and I think that it is closer to the truth, or it's close. Who knows what the actual truth is? That they didn't want our former prez being in office because the first time he ran the line of basically taking us out of NATO. Not only NATO, but basically either candidate our entire lives. If you've went to vote, they've basically gone through the primaries, they've picked these 2 people. Either one of these people were okay to the people that run the world. The people that run the world may not have agreed with the personal politics of either person, and who knows if they were even their real politics, but they may not have agreed with their stance on, these rights or these rights. But they agreed with that both of these candidates, up until 2016, that both of these candidates would be good for the global order of things. That the businesses, the corporations, the people that run it, they could depend on either the right side or the left side for that person to basically get pulled their strings the way that they want it. Eric Weinstein feels that the former prez, Donald, was not that way, that they are scared of something like that happening. He also went over the kind of idea of, well, what if you went to the other extreme? What if you did have the ultimate free speech? Anybody could say anything with absolutely no punishment. Then straight up terrorists could share the plans to make a boom boom, and people could share how to make anthrax or something, and you go that far. If you took us out of NATO, you do take us out of NATO, but then what happens from that? What is the result of completely pulling out of all of those agreements and all of those partnerships? You would destroy things. So I did see a lot of his viewpoint on that, and I actually thought it was really, really intelligent. But that's also saying that, he's right. He who knows what's really true there. But I think NATO is definitely, I agree, it's a bad deal monetarily for us. Dex, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I like the idea of thinking about what would happen. Like, if imagine tomorrow there is no NATO, there's just every country for themselves. I'm not suggesting that's the way it should go. I just said, if you think through the process, it's really easy to say, oh, NATO's bad. But if you think tomorrow everyone is independently managing themselves, and the U.S. is no longer the police of the world, so to speak, right? Well, then what happens? What do you think, like, what is the result of that? What would China do?
Who fills the vacuum?
What would Russia do? Who else would do something? And would we like the consequences? Would they be good or would they be bad? Would they be in between? Would it matter? But it will happen. Somebody has to. And that's the thing. It's not like you can always, I guess you'll always have somebody, like you said, filling the vacuum. There's going to be somebody there. And who should that be? And that's a great, it's a question to think about. And it's really easy just to say, yeah, throw NATO out. But at the same time, if you do, the consequences could be catastrophic for the globe.
Yeah, and I think Donald knew that too, but I think that's why he was playing a hard ball and he was trying to get more money out of some of the smaller countries.
Well, yeah, making them pay their fair share. I mean, like, look, the easiest way to look at it is on GDP. Like, how much does your country make and how much are you spending? And if you're not paying the same proportion as everyone else, then, you're not, it's sort of like paying a tax. Yeah, they should all pay what they should pay for their size.
Speaking of which, it's like, so right now we have sent, so this is a piece on the record-breaking amount of aid, right, that has gone to IS. Now, I'm not even getting into, not taking sides on anything. We're just strictly talking money here. So there's aid going to Israel. They are now currently in this conflict, and they are now boots on the ground in Lebanon. Yesterday or the day before, they announced that they're also sending $157 million into Lebanon. And what you could say is, well, yeah, that's Lebanon. That's the Lebanese people. That's not Hamas or this group. So, yeah, those people are in the middle and caught in the crossfire. But where does that money go? How do you know that $157 million, which, again, it looks like we're giving money to Israel, which they're probably spending, I mean, that money's going towards weapons to destroy this place, and then sending money to that place to then rebuild it or for humanitarian aid. But is that money going to them? If they have disagreements and they're saying, well, Lebanon supports these groups even being there and basically houses them, it's kind of like housing a fugitive or something. That's, you're aiding and abetting them. How do we know that when you send that aid in there, that the government isn't then going to take that money and then use that $157 million to buy a freaking nuke or something, to buy some sort of crazy weapon on the black market? This is the crazy part for me, is when you see not only the U.S., but many groups and, of course, the bankers at the top throughout history, especially now, we only find out 50, 60, 70, 80 years later that you had these parties supporting both sides of it. In more recent times, you had the U.S., obviously a lot of folks know that the U.S. would support a cartel. There's two cartels fighting. The U.S. has a bigger enemy. There's like, well, this cartel is horrendous. They take people's dome pieces off in the street. But this other one, they do group dome piecings. So let's take these guys out. So what we're going to do is we're going to pay money and give money and weapons to this side so they can take out that side because they're the greater evil. But then you end up having US dollars or any party like this giving money to a bad group that then arms themselves, then ends up doing more horrible things. Like, I bet you those same cartels that they gave money back then, they are part of the problem that's probably right now. They're trafficking, doing things like that. It's just so crazy how the actual world works. Not theories, not speculation, not this. The actual way that things work with money, with governments, with all of this. It's just such a broken and corrupt system. It's basically the whole world is like, well, this is the greater or lesser evil. All the way down to who we pick to run the place, right? It's like, well, they're the lesser of two evils, right? That's not a good way to run a world. And again, I don't think anybody has a better idea yet, and that's why we haven't evolved. What do you guys think? Do you agree, disagree? Tell me in the comments down below. But yeah, I just thought it was ironic that we send money there for them to buy stuff and buy weapons and then shoot it off into this country and then give them money to fix the damage. I get it in theory, but it's just, and then again, that money, $157 million broken up, divided by 230,000 is about $682 per person. If that money stayed here and say they did a $157 million bill to get everybody another $700 in North Carolina that still doesn't have power, which some don't. So what do you guys think? Is that logical at all, or am I crazy? And New Zealand Navy ship sinks off of Samoa, but all aboard are rescued, which this is great news. It's great to have some positive news every once in a while. But Dex, do you want to talk about it? Again, I've already seen some folks come out with some weird theories of what ended up happening, but what was the official story?
Well, the official story is it caught fire and sank, but really it ran aground, and then I guess they say it potentially caught fire and then sank. But in the process of it running aground, they were able to get all 75 crew and passengers off of it and onto shore safely. But this was the New Zealand Defence Force said on Sunday that the Manawani, the New Zealand Navy Specialist Dive and Hydrographic Vessel, ran aground near the southern coast of Samoa's main island of Upula on Saturday night as its crew was making a survey of the island nation. So they were surveying that area there. It ran aground. Maybe they got a little too close for comfort.
Now, can I ask, is there any U.S. bases around this area? I'm unfamiliar with this part of even the globe here. So New Zealand is down here. This is where the American Samoa Islands are. Is there anything here of importance, by the way, in this area? Anything, and the reason I ask is there anything here that possibly any of our adversaries or something, how did it catch fire like that? How did it ground itself and then all of a sudden catch fire? A lot of people wonder about, certain things that they might have, like weapons up in space. Could they test it on something like this, see if they could sink a big boat? Is there anything you can think of, any reason why there would be something out here in the Samoa?
I do know that we used to have bases there back in World War II, but we don't anymore. But I do know recently we had talked about Samoa and China, right? And wasn't China cozying up with them?
Well, yeah, and that's kind of, I didn't know. So if we did have bases there, do you know how we've covered in the last 3 months that all of a sudden they're reopening all these bases? But also China has been expanding theirs. If you didn't catch some of the previous shows, they have satellite photos from, I believe it was July. Yeah, it was July of 2023 to August of this year. Of what? Do you remember what islands those were? They used to be a massive, massive center for Hercules planes to land. They were a World War II era base. Anybody in the chat can chime in too. I know you guys, it's right at the tip of your tongue. Probably you guys know it before we can Google it or duck it. Do you guys remember which one that was? They just reopened all the airfields. Who the heck was that? Paul Burbacana, I hope you're not serious. The $750 must be paid back. It's a loan. Oh, that's a joke if that's... Man. Marshall Islands. Is that right? Dex, is that right? I know Dex doesn't say anything without looking and make sure it's right. I'm assuming you're seeing which...
Yeah, it was...
I
think I found the article that we covered. It was the Tinian
and Guam,
and is one of 3 principal islands in the Northern Mariana Islands.
Yeah. So and they showed it's all, grown over, looks like a zombie movie. All of the airfields had vegetation, all sorts of stuff on it. You see a year later, all of the airfields are cleared. They are revamping it. They are reopening it. That is a sign of war. Samoa, my only curiosity is this happened right off of Samoa, and it caught fire. It grounded itself. Can you guys think of why? I guess would say an engine blow up, like it hits the ground, it hits a hole in the bottom. What is in a Navy ship like this that would blow up in the bottom of it? Fuel? I don't know how it works. I'm not smart enough to know that. So asking people that are, you guys, I know that there's a lot of you that are smarter than myself. Why would it catch fire? Or was it 2 separate events? Or was the grounding because of the fire, they were distracted, so they went up ground? I don't know. It just, with these stories and every story, you never know. There are so many events that happen worldwide that the official story is way different from when you actually find out 30 years later, oh, this was actually something else. I don't know. And then something massive is shifting deep inside the moon. Now, this is a really weird one. The first thing I just tell you what my brain thought is it was so weird. Everybody was talking the other day when Elon did this speech or rally with Donald. And one of the claims of our former prez, he says by the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, says by the time 2028 that my second term is done, we'll be on Mars. Dex, what do you think about that? On Mars. And why would we need to be there by 2028? It made me think of Apophis coming in 2029. And it's like, did they speed that timeline up? I thought it was 2030. Now they're saying by 2028. Yeah. And is he talking directly to Donald? And now they're talking about speeding that up a bunch?
Well, yeah, he probably wants it to happen during his presidency. That's for sure. But, it also makes me think also that the 2030 date that's been out there for so many different reasons, whether it be asteroids or others, that would be a reason. But, just getting to Mars isn't necessarily colonizing it. I don't know how long that's going to take versus just getting the first person there. But I think that's more of a longer term battle, in my opinion. But I could be wrong. Who knows? Maybe they've got something bigger planned.
Well, and I know there's people that don't believe they're ever going to do it and that it's never happening. I get you. Because who are we supposed to believe with how much we've been lied to? But if you remember the initial kind of presentations, Elon said by 2030 or something like that we would have 1 million people on Mars, or that was his goal or one of his goals. His big plan, or whatever he calls his big plans, big plan 3, or forget what he calls them. But get this. So part of that, the moon is going to be, hypothetically, the moon is going to be a big part of these Mars things. Now we've been told that our core has not only stopped, that part of it, one of the layers of our core has stopped and then even reversed. We've been told that in the last few years that our Earth rang like a bell. Scientists still don't know what the hell happened with that. We've been told that the moon is actually in our atmosphere. And now they're telling us that there is something moving inside the moon. Yes, you read that correctly. A recent study from scientists at Never a Straight Answer and the University at Arizona found that a layer of low viscosity goo sits between the moon's rugged mantle and its metal core. This goo is rising and falling beneath the lunar surface, not unlike, say, ocean tides, which they concluded is likely caused by the gravitational push and pull of the sun and Earth. It says, quote, just like the moon raises tides on the Earth raises tides on the moon. Read the study published last month in the journal AGU Advances. The researchers described the finding as first measurement of the moon's yearly gravity changes due to tides. I am so confused on how they would know this, how they're getting this, how they're even, why they're even coming up. Like, it's so, I'm so confused by it. Like, Dex, what do you think about goo in the moon? The moon goo. The moon goo. The goo moon goo.
I don't even know why they have to call it goo. But yeah. Maybe it is a star base of some sort. We just don't know it.
Somebody said water in the moon. No. And what is goo, right? It sounds like it's the core of the moon, or is it mantle or lava or something? Like, what the hell is it? How do they see it? What tool do they have that can see inside the moon? What way are they scientifically getting to this thing where they think that there's goo in the moon in the first place? And yes, it may be easy cheese. You're right. I don't know. Liquid iron-like? I don't know. The black goo? No, that's in you. The force is in you, my friend. Not you. You're probably not any of us, but in some of those other, dummies. Taijas NZ, Ang Devil, casual preparedness. It's oil, LOL. Yeah, watch, they say that somebody with cowboy boots and a cowboy hat saying, I'm going to mine the moon. We're going to get some oil. I don't know. But it is a wild story. What is it going to end up turning into? Very soon here, are we going to find out some super crazy story about the moon? I know that some of you think that there are people up there right now, that they have a base up there right now. That it's not that they never went back. They just never publicly went back. And secretly they've been, mining up there, and that they have a whole society of rich people that go up there and drink tea to, moon movies. They make moon movies. Channing Tatum's definitely there. He's their dancing entertainment for the night. I'm just talking about Thursday's schedule for the moon tea party. But no, I've never been. Again, that's not my cup of tea. You know what I'm saying? I would never go to the moon and not tell you guys. And before we move on, make sure to go check out Jace. This is actually, in a very serious way, something that can back you up. If you have a regular medication you take every day, then this is a really awesome service. But other than that, the main thing that Jace is used for is their Jace case. It has a kit of all of the most commonly prescribed antibiotics, whereas if there is an event or anything, you get stuck somewhere, or there is no hospitals, there are no pharmacies, the power's out, it's on week 2 and you just cut your finger. Instead of a funeral, if you have modern medicine and antibiotics, it could be a nothing, right? Well, that's why it's important to go look at things like this. This is an awesome service, 10 minutes. You can find out tons more. Marfooglenews.com/Jace. Use code MARF. You'll have a telehealth appointment with a board-certified doctor, and you can end up getting yourself either a Jace case with all of those antibiotics, or you can get Jace Daily. That is a 12-month extended supply of your prescription meds. Go check it out. Not all medications are on that list, but there's a ton of them. So go learn more at marfooglenews.com/Jace. If you use the code MARF, not only do you give us credit for sending you their way, but you get a discount on this. And this is something that truly could save your life. If you can imagine any kind of event where all of a sudden there is no, system in place. There is no infrastructure. For you to have all of those things it's very, very incredible. They also have add-ons to the Jace case like albuterol, which again, in my case, I always have to have extras. They also have fluconazole, other things such as iodine tablets. If you are at all concerned about a potential nuclear event, that is something that they have. And they even have things that Joe Rogan would have told you is awesome and CNN would have told you is not. So go check it out, marfooglenews.com/Jace. All right, and then Milton. Now, on that video, I also turned it over to Dex because Dex has experienced multiple hurricanes. I have experienced earthquakes. I've experienced a small tornado, tiny tornado, but I've never experienced the big ones. I've never experienced a real hurricane. I've been in some pretty big storms, but we don't have hurricanes like this. We're talking about a Cat 5 named Milton. And it is terrifying to think that they are already talking about budget running out for the North Carolina stuff. And now you have Florida, one of the other places that is very important to this day coming up in less than a month, also being possibly destroyed or wrecked or basically run through like Will Smith. Dex, do you want to go over Milton and what the heck happened here?
Okay, so this is currently sitting just north of the southern end of Mexico there, near Cancun, working its way towards Florida. It is what they call a smaller eye wall, and it's got intense winds. It got up to 180 sustained. That's when everybody was like, this is one of the biggest they've ever seen. And it could grow even bigger. But the one thing it's doing is not just growing in intensity, but it's actually expanding in size. So eye wall replacement, which is where the eye will break down, but then replace itself with a larger eye, allows the storm to get bigger and wider. That's what they're predicting. And it's very much like Katrina, where Katrina started as a 5, but then landed as a 3. But we all saw how much damage it did, mostly with water, surge, and rain. And that's what's going to happen here is they're talking 15-foot tidal surges at some of the peaks. And that's what they're predicting now. Who knows? And that's still 2 days out. They'll get better information as they get closer. Everybody from north of Tampa all the way down Sarasota, way down the south, and even on the eastern, the eastern side of Florida, even as the storm is going to literally go straight across from entering somewhere near Tampa, either north or south of it, and then going across to Orlando and popping out the other side of Florida. So the whole center of Florida is just going to get completely obliterated with this storm, mostly, I would say, probably with heavy surge and heavy rain, which will cause a lot of flooding and a lot of problems. And the wind will be bad too, as it always is with a hurricane. But anyway, everybody's evacuating. It's 3 days early, and people, the highways have been crowded. I know people that work. I have a family member that works out on the road. They build cell towers, and they have to sleep in hotels every night. And they happen to be down in South Georgia, and they can't find a hotel in South Georgia, which is not affected by this, but it's affected by it because everyone in Florida just invaded Georgia, and you cannot find a hotel anywhere in southern Georgia up into middle and Georgia now into the main areas and north. So, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I've seen this multiple times on multiple different tweets with the camera angles. So first of all, people have asked why they haven't reversed traffic on the south way. And I'm thinking it's 2 days out. Is that something they probably will do?
It'll happen later.
So when it gets closer, they will turn all freeways going one way. So
yep.
Are you able to actually go back into it? Like if you wanted to, are you allowed to stay in your home? And
yeah, and the main thing they tell people is to heed the warnings. Like you're told to evacuate, you should evacuate. And the reason why is because there's not going to be any services left. Like there's no one there to protect you. You can't call, for emergency services and an ambulance is going to come. Nothing's going to happen. When they say this is an evacuation zone, they are not planning to do anything there. So you are literally on your own. And that's why they try to tell people, most people, you just need to pack up and leave, get what you can get and get out, and then come back later and see what's left. So, and that's not easy for people to do, but there are some people that will stick behind. There's some people like, yeah, I've been through all these hurricanes. I'm not going anywhere. I'll make it through the next one. And they very well may make it through, but then there's also the people that don't. And they stayed behind sometimes for reasons they couldn't get out. We've heard of other people already who can't even get gas because the gas stations are out. And again, that's why the highway is running bidirectionally right now, is because they do need to bring stuff in. They do need to bring wood in. They do need to bring gas in and water and other supplies. But once you get closer to that point of impact, then they're going to just turn it all around and say, nobody else is coming this direction. We'll flip the highways around.
And then pictured here on the southbound, you can see Dave as he has left his stove on. Unfortunate, Dave. Really should have thought of that beforehand. You got to have a checklist before you evacuate. All right, and then, of course, as this gets closer, this is horrendous. So all of you in Florida, and we have a ton of Fuggle fam in Florida. I mean a ton. As you guys know, we've had tons of creators, our friends that live in Florida. So I am praying, and I'm asking anybody that does pray. If you don't, send your positive vibes. But I'm asking those of you that do pray, please pray for the people of Florida. Please pray for the people of North Carolina. They are still in need. Please pray for the people in Georgia that got stuck in that path. I have personal friends that I did not know were involved in the North Carolina stuff. Do you guys remember I told you how my friend moved to North Carolina? Not only did she move, her mother moved, her stepdad moved, the mother-in-law paid for all of them. They sold their really expensive house, and they paid and helped pay for down payments on everybody to move, or apartment down, first, last months. Paid for everybody. Their entire family moved because none of them could move separately. And this is like the thing I'm in, where it's so expensive here, but I can't move because of the family connections here. I can move farther away from the water to get away from Cascadia, which I did, but I can't get out of Washington, which I would love to. They did. And this was, I've talked about this a bunch because they did it, and they're telling me how cheap it is in North Carolina. The second they get there, within like a month or two, this happens. I didn't know that they were a part of this. I knew they were in North Carolina. I didn't realize the mother-in-law was in Asheville. I did not realize that. I knew where my friend was. So they were affected by it. We didn't know this because they did not have internet until Starlink came in. And apparently they ended up having to use they have like a communal, at first they had a communal Starlink. So that Starlink that was brought to them, that was their only connection out to the outside world. So I don't know, man, and it made even my aunt just asked me about Starlink and what I thought about it. I don't have it myself. I know that Ilea, one of our mods, has a Starlink thing, but it made me think, like, gosh, those would really come in handy. If you have a generator with power, basically wherever you are, as long as Starlink's above you, you have internet, you have phone, you can call out. This isn't an ad for Starlink, but I do think that they are freaking cool. And in situations like this, it made me even more mad about this whole thing that's going on with Starlink, and Elon saying that they were trying to deliver more, which if you guys have friends and family out there, if you have people that are stuck, or if you're stuck, would you not be furious afterwards finding out that people were trying to get you a communication device, but you couldn't get it? Dex, I mean, isn't that crazy though? Like, the people's only communication were these Starlinks after they came. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting, the newer phones, like at least the newer iPhones, have that satellite communication in them now. And I don't think we're that far off from having the ability to at least connect to Starlink from a cell phone. And when that day comes, I think that will offer, a different approach to when you see massive outages like this, where, yeah, you may be struggling to find a a battery bank to charge your phone, but at least you could then be able to connect again. Because it is not uncommon, even in hurricanes. Like my wife's been through many. She went through one and had no power, no services, no running water, and no cell phone, nothing, for over 2.5 weeks in southern Florida when it happened at that time. So yeah, it's not uncommon, and it happens, and it's much more, it's a different time to be completely in the dark and have no connectivity to anybody, and the only information you can get is from word of mouth of people around you.
Yeah, that's something that is, it's just the whole thing is worse than Katrina, and it's not front page news. Back when it was Bush, they would not, I remember it was like, and that was especially back when the news just talked about things 24/7 for multiple days. Now people don't have the attention span for them to keep showing the same thing. So they just rotate it 50 different people saying different, just pull out things out of nowhere. But back then, it was on the news nonstop. It was like, Dex, do you remember watching Katrina? Like I watched it on the news, like glued to the TV, just like, 2001 and the Japanese earthquake. It was like you just were like, what the hell is happening here?
Exactly. What? So if T-Man was in office right now and this was happening, I'm sure everybody was like, oh, things would be different. Yeah, they might be, but I guarantee you the media coverage of this they would be all over it, and they would be spinning it. That's just my opinion. They would
say it's his fault.
Exactly.
He controls the weather. They did back when it was right before he left. There was like some sort of hurricane, and but basically it was his fault. They literally came up with some. Do you remember that, Tex? You were with me. I remember. They specifically said because there was some bill or so, they said that I'm
sure they tied it to him, the Paris Accords, him pulling out this change event and all that. That all of a sudden it's now his fault, and yeah, they spin anything they want.
Even if you dislike him, you must realize like things are not equal right now. I mean, yeah. If it was like, say if you were the person in charge of covering, a story or something, and it's a story between two that are in a horrible argument and both say they're right, and one person was, your mother or something, and the other person was your neighbor you absolutely hate. Do you think the person covering that story is not going to be biased towards their mother? It's just like, that's how everything is, though. Everything is biased towards one side. And I honestly think that both sides should be able to get along with each other like we used to do. I don't know. Am I crazy for thinking like we could go back in time to when people didn't talk only about what their politics were and then also about how much they hate the other side of it? And you could say who, you supported without people disowning you? I don't know. It's just crazy. Dex, go ahead.
Hey, Casual Preparedness in chat said this, and I remember seeing it earlier too. This is a good update for those of our Foogle fam that are in Florida. The Atlanta Motor Speedway, which is a huge racetrack, kind of like all the other major NASCAR racetracks, which is south of Atlanta, not right in Atlanta, but a little bit south of Atlanta. They've opened up the speedway for evacuees. So if you guys are looking for a place to go and can't find a hotel, and you're open to camping or to pitching a tent, that's the place to go. Because they do have accommodations there for all the, the tailgaters that usually go to NASCAR style events. So it's a big place.
Wait a second. So it's like just a giant parking lot where they're letting people come and camp?
Yeah. It's a huge motor speedway for NASCAR, and those events are always full of people that camp RV all weekend long for the event. So most of these motor speedways, especially the one in Atlanta, is massive. It's very big. There's a lot of accommodations there for people to camp. They're
not camping in the middle of the track, though, right?
No, it's outside. Okay, it'll be outside of the track.
Because
during race day you can get a infield position, but it depends on the track. But yeah,
I get you. And they will remember that next racing season when it is all fixed up.
I think it's like Hampton, Georgia or something. It's south of Atlanta. It's not right in Atlanta. It's a little bit south, but it's a good spot if you guys are stuck in Florida looking for a place. Head up there.
They have essentially parking for an event that could have 20, 30, 40,000 people. I get what you're saying.
Hundreds of thousands of people. Wow,
that's incredible. And then Howie Brown, thank you for the support. Says keep it up. Thank you. Phil Osofer says I've been waiting since UKR invasion. Thanks Maud, Adam, and Dex for the weekly shows. It became a routine watching these shows every morning. Thank you. Phil Osifer, thank you for watching the replay. It sounds like you watch mostly. And thank you guys for the patience of kind of the changing schedule. As you guys know, I have kids. I have work as well. Thank you. I appreciate everybody that comes to these. Thank you, and thank you. All right. Let's see here. And, everybody that's in the path of that, love you guys. Thank your mods. Your mods are a very special part of this team, so make sure to drop an M in the chat right now, and also go over to marfooglenews.com/friends. FRIENDS. It's right here, or you can go to marfooglenews.com and get that tab right there. You as well can find a whole list of great creators covering everything from solar events like Wages World all the way to, it could be Sasquatch or CERN, anything from A to Z and everything in between. There's something covered for anybody and everybody. So go check out this list. You can go straight down it and subscribe if you like. I'm sure you'll find some good stuff there. All right, Dex, thank you so much for your service today. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And again, make sure to go get yourself some food. You don't want to ever be stuck in the position that some of these folks have been, where you don't have access to a store. You don't have access to more food. So if you do want to go long-term stored food, this is one of the most affordable bulk buys you can get. In fact, some people are like, gosh, why don't I just get one of these and live off it now because of the crazy prices? The math works out really, really well, especially when you get our discount. You can get up to $200 off depending on the time frame you're watching this on a 3-month kit. They have smaller kits than that, but that 3-month is kind of like equivalent of going to Costco. The more you buy, the more discount you get. And that's freeze-dried food that will last 25 plus years. So this food will be good until 2052 to 2053. We might be in flying cars by then. Just kidding. We won't be here. No, I'm just kidding. But am I? marfooglenews.com/prep. Make sure to go check out their products as well. They have the Alexa Pure Pro, which is a great filtration device if you're worried about what's in your water, which most of you are. Go check out stuff like that. It's a great system to filter a ton of water. It's, again, a big system that can do it very fast. marfooglenews.com/prep. All right. Thank you, guys. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. Thank you so much for everybody that supported tonight. Thank you so much, Howie Brown. And thank you, Phil Ossofer from Europe. Julie Bratcher, Kat, Colby Wilson, Cody. To Renee Alera. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lindy Lou, Cody, Colby. Looks like our top supporter is Julie Bratcher. Second up, Phil Ossofer. And third up, it looks